He's the leader of the crew who helped make Dancing with Our Stars a major production, with lighting and sound on par with any rock concert. From Lighthouse Productions, we welcome Jason Strazishar, aka Straz, because that's way easier to pronounce. Welcome, Straz, to the DWOS Diaries.
Thank you.
Let's hop right to it, my man. When did you and Lighthouse Productions get contacted to become part of DWOS?
As it turns out, through our digging, through my digging, we had involvement actually before, actually all the way back to the Riverside. Gerald from the PAC contacted us, and you guys rented, I think for the first 2 years, just a spotlight. And I think Lighthouse actually donated that spotlight because Gerald just came and picked it up and did his thing. When we really gained traction was 2010, when we went to the Radisson in the Three Clans room and started doing that level of production for you guys.
So what were you thinking then when you really got your hands into it? All right, I am going to be doing the production for a ballroom dance show. What were your thoughts at that time, and what was the game plan that you put together?
My thoughts at that time, I mean, I thought it was going to be pretty cool. I was kind of 4 years into working for Lighthouse, and doing something of that size was familiar to me, but doing a ballroom dance competition, my first ever, it was certainly interesting. Definitely needed to test the waters with both lighting and audio. I know audio had a few hurdles in all of that as well. It was interesting. I would have never guessed in all the time and in all the years. I mean, looking back to 2010 when it was just me and another guy, and we had about, I'd say about 3/4 of a semi worth of gear, that we would grow this thing over the years into what it became.
So this is, I've got a photo of you doing some work at the Radisson. So walk me through that room. Were the challenges as far as that room was concerned, or, just kind of go through the process of getting the Three Clans room set up for Dancing with Our Stars?
Well, the process at the Three Clans room, I mean, it was pretty straightforward. There was definitely some rigging challenges. That room isn't very straightforward to hang all of the equipment. Every time we did one of these shows, the biggest hurdle was nothing could be on the floor. Once we, kind of through the years, we always wanted to put it on a stage. That never came to fruition. So nothing was ever on the floor. Everything needed to be in the air, and we needed to have the biggest impact in the air as possible. So whatever it took, we did. At the Three Clans room, that was obviously years ago, so we were running heavier cable because we were still running old school par cans. We weren't running LEDs, period. So the power and cabling and weight of it all was pretty significant in that room.
And it was always packed, so you didn't have a lot of room to work around people.
No, packed to say the least, Shawn. I mean, we darn near I'm pretty sure we overcapacitated that room in some capacity.
I know at least the last year there, which would have been my first year there, 2013, we had a few tables with guests up on the stage. There's a staging area, and of course the judges are up there, but then they were flanked by tables with people to sit. That was the year, famously Bettina and Donald Driver took part, so demand was huge. And I've always joked, I think we could have filled the Resch Center that year. with maybe some tables on the floor, a dance floor. What the heck? I mean, we're dreaming it up here. So if we were to do a ballroom dance event in the Resch Center, what like would be your ideal scenario for setup? Would we just use the stadium seating, or do you think we could have a dance floor somewhere there? You know, I'm picturing the basketball court, and then maybe some floor seats.
Oh, you and I have dreamed this for years.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, we could kill it in the Resch. Definitely a stage in the center. We would play it in the round. We'd play it in the round as we've done every time. And I think that would be phenomenal. We'd have all the right angles. We'd have all the right everything in place. I mean, doing the major all-stars kind of thing, we would kill it there. We've definitely dreamt about that for sure.
And I actually toured. So after that 2013 season at the Radisson, I mean, it was days after. I don't like to rest. So it's like, all right, we're on to the next event. We knew we needed to move out of that. As great as a host as the Radisson and the Uniteds had been for that 4 years, yep. It was time to go bigger. And I did tour the Resch Center, and I obviously had massive dreams. And I'm a big professional wrestling fan. I know people who are close to me know that. So those who aren't, well, that's where I get a lot of my production and I guess you want to call bravado from the different things World Wrestling Entertainment does. So there was a WrestleMania where Shawn Michaels came off of a zip line from the ceiling down to the ring. And so I had always had a dream of the rally man coming down from the rafters and landing on the middle of the dance floor. Of course, it was never meant to be, but hey, you know, that's the beauty of this. We do get to dream big and then get humbled, and all right, you know, it's back to reality.
That would have been perfect. So
reality ended up being the KI Convention Center. That's where we toured after the Resch Center, and we felt, yeah, Resch is probably a little bit too big. The year before, when we had Donald Driver to help sell lots of tickets, probably would have worked. And that's nothing against everybody who took part in the event post that, but Donald gave you that appeal, obviously, of the common person who would be interested in seeing him. But we toured the lower ballroom because that's all they had at the time. The lower ballroom at the KI Convention Center, and hey, this gives us a lot more space than what we need. It's not really a ballroom per se, it's a convention hall, but it has, we can fit up to 1,000 here, where the capacity at the Radisson, we pushed it, we were close to 800. We weren't at 800, but that Driver year, I think we were probably 780. So moved to the convention center, okay, we can comfortably fit about 1,000 there. So walk me through what you guys had to do to turn that into a ballroom per se.
So we really went into a box. The Radisson Three Clans room was for sure a ballroom, but the lower at the KI was a box, and we needed to make it look not like a box. We did, oh yeah, there it is.
Great carpet, by the way.
Yeah, but it's not the Three Clans carpet.
That's true.
We had taller ceilings. I want to say it was, yeah, in 2014. We had Allie with Sash and Bow. She helped kind of do some fabric dressing. She had the flower ball of doom. If you want that picture, I could send it to you. That was kind of a centerpiece, a focal point. But we went in and we just tried to bring the focus away from the walls, but we still were trying to do a little bit of audience lighting, because in 2014, our first step into the KI, this was also the first year that we brought in live streaming, and we brought in the
Social
or
media
whatever that was.
screens.
Social media screens. Yep. So there you go. So we had 4 corners of iMag, which was going out to live to the internet, and then we had the social media screens on opposite ends. And then we just tried to light the room to just give it a nice feel around that room, and we really transformed it. The divider walls in that space helped a bunch as well. But I definitely think we achieved making it not look like just a giant white box.
Yeah, when you look at that before picture and then at this, obviously you've got tables and whatnot and people in there, but the way you guys lit the room, I just think that it looked great. It didn't look like a big box, if you will. What were your thoughts on the social media screens? I mean, I think, you know, we had it sponsored, which obviously in any kind of a fundraising event, that's the bottom line is always going to talk more than anything. Eventually, we did do away with them, and that probably leads you into what your answer is going to be as to what you thought of those screens.
Oh God, they were a pain in the ass. Between running them and getting them up, we lost impact. I mean, the first year it was like, ooh, that's neat. And then it was like the second year, oh, this is a chore, and we're not getting a whole lot out of it. And then I'm pretty sure we cut it pretty quick after that. I mean, it was cool, like a little bit, but also we were live streaming the thing so we could see responses there as well.
And does that change? So with bringing the live stream on board, now you're not only playing to the audience in the ballroom, but you have a viewing audience at home. Does that change anything in your game plan, or are you pretty much lighting it for just the people that are there?
That changed a bunch. That changed our playing field a bunch. We sat at Lighthouse after the first year, so after 2014, we sat and we talked about, like, hey, you know, I went home and actually watched Dancing with the Stars, or I watched whatever where there's an audience in place, and there's a whole new, to me, level of, so not only are we lighting the dance floor and making that look good, but we're lighting the room and the people. The people very specifically needed their own, now I'm going to get overly technical, their own systems of light. They needed to be supported on their own. It wasn't just the dance floor anymore. So I needed to bring extra lighting so that it didn't look like the dancers were just in an empty room or whatever. We needed to make it look and sound. So another layer of that was working with audio to make sure that we could hear people clapping. We could hear them oohing and on and cheering them on and everything like that. We needed to make this a real live production. I mean, it was a live production, but we needed to give everybody at home that what we're brought up on watching TV now.
So we spent 2 years downstairs, and then the new grand ballroom is built upstairs. And I know you weren't a big fan of us moving up there.
It was scary.
New space, and for those again who don't know, and that's why one of the reasons we're doing this show is to pull the curtain back and let you learn things that you don't know. What's the big difference between loading equipment downstairs and trying to get it to the grand ballroom upstairs?
Oh boy. So in the lower ballroom, in that first photo, you could see the garage doors to the street. We could literally back trucks to the dance floor if we wanted to. I'll save a lot of my opinions about the build at the KI, but the end result is those garage doors are now a staging area. So I have a photo of when I was reviewing. I had 4 26-foot straight trucks where the dance floor was in 2014, 2015. all of that equipment then gets dumped, pushed around a corner and another corner to a freight elevator. And it goes up that freight elevator, then it goes down a hallway, a very tight hallway, because the new KI Convention Center wasn't built with a whole lot of storage space. So that hallway is always, always tight. But that hallway is the length of the room that we worked in 2014 and 2015. But then it's the length of the entire room in the new space. So you're talking, I mean, it felt like miles you were pushing equipment. And that's when we needed to step up our game when it came to volunteers and all of the help that you, Shawn, helped bring in to help us, because it was just kind of all of these funnels and marbles in a funnel, and it was like okay, now instead of one funnel to deal with, it was like 8, and I needed to put people at every one of these places to just keep gear moving, whether it be coming in or going out. But we definitely got our steps in those days.
Aside from the very, very, very long push, once you got all the equipment there and set up, what were your thoughts as to that space?
It was new. It was big. There was it was a big learning curve. It was a brand new space. Everything was hidden. It was a beautiful ballroom. It is a beautiful ballroom. But everything was finished. All the soffits and everything like that. So we needed to go in from a technical aspect and start mapping out what could we do. Oh yeah, all those black squares in the ceiling, that's kind of my bread and butter. In the old room, it was just like, oh look, the white beam, I hang off of that. Well, in this new room, it's like, okay, what can I do? Where can I do it? And then once again, this is a bigger space. We're playing pretty long too, because that room's about 200 feet long. So we needed to be able to support the audience as we grew it up there. All in all, I liked the space. It had its technical hurdles, but I mean, pretty much by that last year, I mean, we had her dialed in, and we had it so dialed in. I mean, we filled that room. I mean, we filled it all the way front to back, left to right. And that was a lot of pride, being able to do that and make it look the way it did.
Talk about the video screens. I know in this photo you can't really make out the graphic on there, but
yeah,
those video screens to me were game changers. I still get excited by them. I think I joked, I call it the Dancing Tron or the Kiser Tron or the Strazishar or something like that. Tell everybody that's with us here watching this video, DWOS Diaries, what those screens were, you know, what they were made of, how big they were, and then from that production aspect, you know, how much of a difference they made for the people who were sitting in the ballroom and what they could see on them, as opposed to what the screens would have been previously.
So previously, once we got video involved, it was all projection. That's really what Lighthouse was into. We had screens, we had projectors, but then amidst our very long run together, Lighthouse invested in a video wall, and basically it's just a giant HD TV. And it was very expensive, which is why we didn't immediately implement it. But to do screens and projectors and justify it and make it look good in that space was tough. We did, I think the first year up there in 2016, we did some screens and projectors, and it was rough. It didn't look as good as I thought it could have. It still looked good, but it didn't look as good. But then also, by hanging those video walls where we did, we were able to make it look good and then seat more people. And obviously the biggest thing is it's fundraising dollars. Get butts in seats. and do all of that. Now on the technical end, the fun numbers, each one of those walls is about 1,800 pounds. So we had to bring those in. So once again, we had what we call the mile-long push into the room, and then opposite ends of the room, and then my video team came in. We got some trusses up and got each one of those video walls hanging so that we could see live and in color, in HD, what's going on the dance floor if somebody couldn't see an aspect of it or anything like that. So it was pretty cool. As Lighthouse evolved, we were able to evolve the show. It went together, went hand in hand, year by year. It was pretty cool that way.
So the last year, 2018, and we made a move with the judges stage. So the judges used to always be on the western end of the room, a bit further away from the dance floor, and they came at the end of that seating section. But for the final year, since I knew that I wanted to fill the entire room, as you talked about prior, okay, where can I move the judges so I can put more rows of tables back there, but yet not eliminate any other seating? And so we went with the north wall, and it was a very close fit, but we were still able to fit 2 rows of tables there. I guess, give me your opinion and thoughts about how you felt the transition went from where they used to be on the western end to now putting them much closer to not only the majority of the audience, but also the dance floor.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't have people eating dinner on that stage, because I mean, we crammed that thing in there so tight. The move was a good logical move because we needed to put more people in there. We also were using the judges kind of as one of those focal points, as if it was like an actual performer stage. So more kind of a natural feel to an event space, but obviously we're dealing with the in the round, but then what is a logical location for a stage like that? You and I definitely went back and forth as to where to put this thing, because we were dealing with a matter of inches. I mean, there were people right up into that stage for sure, but we got her in there, and then we had to figure out all the technical aspects of, okay, how is my audio guy going to be affected? How can I get good shots on camera of what's going on stage? And then of course I had to figure out how to get lights there. But as you can see in this photo, they looked really good.
I think it's spectacular. I love that backdrop that you brought in. I think a few years prior you used maybe in different parts of the room, and then also used on the judges stage. And I guess, is that just, what are we looking at there?
That is our crushed screen fabric, the backdrop that will never die. It's basically like your front screen door. We just buy that stuff in volume, we crush it up and make it easy to tour. And it takes light so beautifully. And we have a couple of variations on it, but it's a nice, simple, quick and easy backdrop, and it looks good on camera, which is what is important. So all of the black attire in this photo does not fall into the abyss. It actually will look good on camera as well.
And it fits the Red Cross theme.
Absolutely.
You had talked about how close and us working with inches, and that is certainly the truth. So I know that you and your team set up on Thursday, and I showed up later that evening because I wanted to make sure, even though on the diagram that we use with the KI Convention Center, it showed that, to scale, and that's another conversation for another day, how scale that is. But I was just so fortunate. I was such a mad scientist. Mike Jubert's my contact at the convention center, and I would bug him so much, changing a table here or there. And finally I said, he used a program called Social Tables. And I said, Mike, can you just give me access to that thing and let me play with it? And he says, yeah. So I would literally sit there and play for hours, moving tables around and doing this and that. And of course, Jubert would say, okay, well, I guess we're going to airdrop the meals to people because there's not enough space to get the food carts. But according to that final diagram, it showed we could still fit 2 rows of tables between the dance floor and the judges. It would be tight. So as soon as you guys had the stage set up, I was back on location and I had catering setting up tables and chairs just to make sure, because I really didn't have any other place to put these people if it didn't fit. But thank the good Lord that it did fit, barely.
And we drove Mike Jubert absolutely insane between your revisions almost nightly. And then once I got in there, and then Mike kind of looked around and went, there isn't room for a whole lot here. We had to do cable overs. We had to kind of, in the 11th hour, figure out how to get cable so that their wait staff didn't have to bump over any cables pushing into the door because it was already so tight. And then the other biggest thing for that year was everything tech lived outside of the room. Not a single person. I think I got kind of half a seat in the room with my lighting console, I think, but everybody was outside. We had a giant, probably like 1 foot or 2 foot, just wad of cable that literally swagged over a bar, in out the door to the entire tech world. We took up, and if anybody's ever seen that hallway, we took up almost that entire side hallway by the river there with our entire tech staff because there was no room for us.
Because in the past, when we had the judges stage there on the western end, there'd be pipe and drape behind that, and then that gave you enough space to have tech and equipment stored there and etc. But when I knew we were going big for the finale and shooting for a record crowd, I wanted to have every square inch of that ballroom dedicated to guest seating. So that's when we said, okay, can we fit all the tech in the back hallway between the dressing rooms and, at least have enough room so people who are participating can navigate their way back to the ballroom. But we made it work. It was tight, but that's why I always appreciated working with you guys at Lighthouse and the Camera Corner crew, because while I certainly pushed you, you guys would always find a way to make it work.
It was fun. Those logistics through the years, as we grew, it was a nice growing kind of step by step into it. Very, very enjoyable, very fun. Just figuring out every one of those challenges, but then just having so much fun with it. I mean, the products of the last, especially I'd say 3 years, the finale year, obviously, I was quite proud of. Oh yeah.
Two things, yeah. So two final questions for you. One, as you talked about those final 3 years, you guys seem to add more and more lights every year. And I know the year prior to this is when you came up with the concept. We only had one mirror ball in 2016, and it's sitting out on the dance floor just like this, except there's only one. And you had the brilliant idea to light that baby up, and it became a huge hit. All of a sudden, people are stepping away from their dinner and they're going out there and they're taking selfies. And then we quickly realized, okay, we need to do this next year and actually have volunteers stationed there and be taking pictures with them. And 2017 had 3 mirror balls because we had the individual trophy, but then we also had the team division, so 3 mirror balls. And this is just a spectacular look. It's not doctored up at all. I mean, this is legit. But what kind of lights are you putting on this, and what is the power percentage of those lights? And if you had turned those lights up to full power, what would happen?
Oh boy. So very briefly, in terms of power, through the years, we talked about 2010, and I had to haul a lot of cable. I was hauling less cable. Everything was LED. What's hitting these bulbs right now are still a arc source lamp. It's not an incandescent like something. It's not an incandescent at this point. We should know what that is. But these are specially designed lights to give you a super high powered beam of light, very high powered beam of light. I think this picture was probably taken at, I would say maybe 10 or 15%, and that's being generous. I had more, but after that first year when I hung, I think 8 of our new 16. We had 16 of these lights. So I pointed 8 of them. And I was like, I wonder what'll happen. And a little 6-inch mirror ball covered a 200 by 100-foot room, and I went, oh boy. And we had fun with it. I went, Shawn, can I do this? And I showed you, and we all, like, I mean, it was just a kid in a candy store. It was like, whoa, yeah, we could do this. So that was super fun. I mean, it was mind blowing that a 6-inch mirror ball with our new higher powered beam lights. These lights, the beam itself, I mean, they got warm. The mirror balls never officially got warm, but the lights, because the lights were a comfortable distance away. But if the lights were any closer, we actually had some concern. But that's what it took, and it covered beautifully the entire venue when we lit those mirror balls up.
It was a spectacular look, and I've got one more photo and story to share before we wrap it up. You can probably guess where I'm going. It does come from the last year, and we had tried for several years. We had discussed bringing one of these in, and it just wasn't in the cards. But the stars were aligned, if you will, for the final season to bring in a giant mirror ball and hang in the ballroom. So how did it all come about that we were finally able to get our hands on this mirror ball? And then, talk me through the whole production of putting that up and lighting it up and what that did to the room.
Well, the big finale year, we wanted to pull out all the stops, and so and having a couple years under our belt in that room, I knew what it took to do it and do it right. And in terms of lighting and audio and video and everything like that, but we needed to pull out all of the stops. And I was looking at some logistics for some other shows that were in the vicinity of yours. And as you said, the stars aligned, and I was able to work it out that I could get a 4-foot mirror ball out of Chicago and into our possession for the week. And when I had all that worked out and very much dialed in to keep it in the budget and all of that, that was the biggest thing. I green lighted that so hard, so fast, and I'm still the same grin when I was able to pick up the phone and say, hey man, we're doing this, because we've talked about it and we're doing this. And that was so cool. I love this picture. My favorite picture, and I should send it to you, is so like talking about the logistics of getting everything up into this room right here. It took a team of about 5 or 6 people very carefully pushing through the hallway. We almost didn't get it in there. The box that it came in, we had maybe an inch or less to spare pretty much its entire journey from the street all the way up into that room. But we got it in there, and boy, did it look good.
It looked great, and you and I agreed to keep it a secret. We weren't going to tell anybody on the team that we were bringing this in, because again, we had talked about it for so long. And I remember showing it to Jody Wires, who really wanted a mirror ball for the longest time. And I think we just let her peek inside the box, and she freaked out. I wish we had taped her reaction. But then once everybody else finally walked into the room and saw that thing up there. Oh my gosh, wow. So very cool, very well done. Kudos to you and your team for being able to pull that one off.
Thank you for that. Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it so much. You taking some time out. It's one of those things that everybody sees, but they don't really know what went into all that work. So it's a fun peek behind the curtain, or the fourth wall, if you will, to get to talk to the man behind making our stars shine a little bit brighter.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being a part of DWOS Diaries, Straz.